Oh snap, what the heck happened to my camera? What the heck? Oh gosh. Oh yeah, trust me, I know, Emmanuel. I wasn't washing in here, I promise. I wasn't washing in here at all. I'm just kidding. Alright, alright. All joking aside, that's probably gonna be the last part of the joking for most of the stream. But yeah, boy, do we have a boy, oh boy, do we have a situation on our hands. We got several days of severe weather, and then yeah, the fact that you have an account called Ty's Right Hand is yeah, be gone, abomination. We're not doing that here. Anyways, we have quite the situation on our hands actually over the course of the next few days. Severe weather is really going to start to ramp up now. No, it is not funny bone time. Dear God. Can't even have a serious moment on here. Actually, I'm lefty, Torex. I'm a lefty. I'm technically ambidextrous because I actually play guitar right-handed. Can't have it. Can't have nice things because of you guys. Can't have nice things because of you guys. Alright, so anyways, all that aside, let me be serious, please. Anyways is right. Okay, so interesting situation. We actually did have a slight risk today, but nothing came of it. It was very much a conditional threat. Tomorrow's going to be no different, actually. We have a slight risk over towards central parts of Oklahoma here and northern parts of Texas that does include the Dallas metro. The thing is about this threat, this is going to be overnight, and like I said, it's also conditional. Part of it's going to have to do with instability, and also it depends on how quickly this trough ends up ramping up, which to a point I expect it to. Torex, do your business on this abomination account here. Anyway, then from Monday night we get into Tuesday, and really what happens Monday night is going to be a big factor in what ends up happening on Tuesday here. So this is where we have the enhanced risk now. Notice that this area has shrunk in size, and this is due in large part to the warm sector kind of shrinking a bit. And we're going to get into the models in just a second for that. But I remember yesterday that this enhanced risk was all the way past Little Rock. Now we're starting to drop a little bit south of there. Baton Rouge is still just on the edge of it. And parts of north and north central Mississippi have started to been downgraded to a slight risk as well. Since we're now within the 72-hour line, we now have the marginal risk stretching all the way out towards Atlanta and areas further off towards the east. Then also a conditional threat over here towards St. Louis. Yeah, that warm sector does drop off, but we'll have to see. Like I said, I really think that what ends up happening tomorrow evening and into the overnight is going to be a big factor as to what can be expected for Tuesday. So let's go ahead and actually get into that model data now. Normally I don't wait this late to do an update or a live discussion. Baconator, you're on one today, man. Sheesh. You are on one, sir. But anyways, okay, so let's get the models up here. We're going to do a quick rundown of, actually we're going to start with a warm sector for a change. I know I normally show the wind profile, but with that, I mean, if I'm being honest, it's still pretty stout. It's going to rain. Yeah. Yeah, sure. It's going to rain. We'll go with that. But the key with the warm sector is, though, and I'm hoping I'm just barely in range for this. Here's a system coming through here. Before we were starting to see that warm sector kind of advect further off towards the north, and actually do a little bit better off towards the east here. And I mean, it's still pretty prominent, but the problem is, as the front draws closer, we start to cool off notably over here ahead of this event. We're still in the mid 60s, so I still think there's a chance that this could do better than what people are portraying it as right now. I don't feel as concerned about a massive tornado outbreak, but it still could be a very problematic evening nonetheless here. The moist sector, the low level moisture is still there to answer your question, Baconator. I'm going to move this forward. And that's interesting too, though, because before we were seeing that low-level moisture getting all the way into parts of Tennessee and Kentucky. I mean, we still have dew points in the mid-50s, but you really want those dew points in the 60s at this point. And right where our enhanced risk area is where we're seeing the most prominent 60-degree plus, mid-60-degree dew points here. We still have a prominent warm sector and a moist sector as we get into the overnight hours, albeit it won't be quite as impressive. I do expect this to downtrend overnight, but we're at the edge of our range here with HRRR here. We only get to go up to 48 hours. So, big issue we got here is really got a lot more to do with the thermos, or thermodynamics. We call them, I just kind of call it thermos for short here. But if we were to go ahead and take a look at the wind profile, the wind shear is going to be more than enough to overcome the lack of thermodynamics to a degree. Areas further towards the north, like this cold core region over towards Missouri, I think that might be on the way out. There's still good wind shear. I still think there might be just enough to squeeze out a little something, but no guarantees to be had there. Really, the positioning of the upper level low is going to be the only chance for that to really get something going here. And I still think it's possible based off of this look that we're getting from HRRR. You can see that we still have a negatively tilted trough. We can still see that the winds are very strong over toward this region. We still have a jet streak over here as well that's still evolving as we go throughout the day. So as far as a shear standpoint is concerned, especially towards the upper levels, we already have hit the mark, if not exceeded it. The same thing goes kind of with the mid levels as well. These contours right here are short wave, so we still have our source of lift here. We still have good mid-level winds stretching all the way up towards Missouri as well. I don't really need to say much about the Mississippi Delta there because we've been seeing that on models for ages now, it feels like. So as we go into the evening and even into the overnight hours, we're going to still have some wicked mid-level winds. They're going to be screaming at about 70 to 80 knots here. Some places even going faster than that. It's going to be, of course, where that warm sector is where we're going to have the most intense weather, I would say. I was trying to think of a word that was a little too big. And that's not what she said, so hush. Alright, Torex. Now, if we get to the low-level jet, of course, pretty much a similar deal. Kind of a rinse and repeat situation, really. Low-level jet's going to be at about 70 knots. So, like I said, any storms that do happen to become discrete and end up maturing into supercells have a great chance of producing tornadoes and potentially even a few strong ones. If that warm sector was bigger, and that's why there's such a big deal and so much uproar about this downtrending, if the warm sector was bigger, we would have more room for additional supercells, and there could have been multiple strong tornadoes. Not to say that that can't still happen, but it's a little less likely now at this point. So let's go now talk about the factors for Tuesday, and then we're actually going to backtrack to Monday here because I actually have not talked about that at all. But there's two factors in particular with Tuesday that kind of come into mind here. For one, I think low-level cloud cover is going to be a big inhibiting factor. especially as we get into the afternoon of the 4th. As you can see, there's still a nice little cloud bank over here. There's 100% cloud cover over these regions. But there is a point over here, especially towards south central Mississippi, where we do get little breaks here and there. We get a little bit of action over here towards northern Mississippi as well. The question is, can we get enough surface heating towards this region to maybe include it back in an enhanced risk? I think we're at a point now where the moderate risk talk that I've been hearing online here might have been overplayed. At one point, I would have even gone as far as to say that I would have been on board with it. I'm not quite as certain of that now. I'm pretty sure a lot of other people are kind of going the other way with it as well. But eventually, as we get later into the afternoon, this is where our cloud bank comes in. Storms follow, not too far behind that at this point. And then the other potential fail perimeter that we have here, it's going to have a lot to do again with what we end up seeing overnight tomorrow. As you can see, we get a nice little line of showers and thunderstorms, and the environment out ahead of this is actually pretty notable too. There is a chance of severe weather with that. I do think a few overnight damaging wind gusts and maybe a few tornadoes are possible. And this is terrible timing because usually during this time people are sleeping, and as a result, warnings are not usually heeded and bad things tend to happen. Of course, we see this go through early in the day. Now, complicating factor is, do we get prefrontal convection early in the day before the main line comes through? Any messy showers and storms that end up popping up over here with the convection that's available hampers this warm sector further. And that's kind of why I think that Kentucky and Tennessee kind of got taken out of a lot of that enhanced risk region. However, there is a chance that we could get a little bit of resurgence here. It's a slim one, but we'll have to keep an eye out for it nonetheless. Like I said, a lot is going to be dependent or contingent upon what ends up happening overnight on Monday. I still think we get some prefrontal storms. There's a few indicators right here over towards central Mississippi that I'm going to be watching for. But in any case, we still see activity as we get past sunset over here, over into Alabama, and then eventually Georgia. Perimeters kind of drop off just slightly by that point. Now, when we get to Monday, here's the really interesting part. If those storms end up being very strong as we get into Monday night and have the potential to produce strong storms, potentially even significant severe, which I won't rule out. Look at the warm and moist nodes that we have here. Look at those 60-degree dew points that pop up there. As we get into the overnight hours, there is a very strong moisture gradient here as well. So it would be best not to sleep on this, no pun intended, for the threat of severe weather here. Because I could literally move this cursor here and into the moist sector, we're at 62. We get to this line right here. Watch how we drop all the way to 34. That is a very impressive moisture gradient there. Temperatures are going to be just as sharp at this point. I'm actually going to freeze frame this here at 32 hours. And then we're going to switch over to the temperature as well to go with it. Not as significant of a temperature gradient, and this is due in large part to the fact that we don't have any daytime heating left over at this point. But considering that moisture gradient, we're still going to have enough lift on this frontal boundary here, this dry line in particular. And this does increase my concern in regards to an overnight threat of severe weather, which would even, of course, as I mentioned before, include tornadoes. Low-level jet is also pretty strong towards this region. The biggest inhibiting factor with Monday night and into the overnight is the forcing is not going to be all that prominent. It's really a matter of timing in this case. And as you can see, this is our upper level low here. The forcing is still subpar at best, but could still be sufficient enough to produce some notable severe weather overnight. And like I said, the big issue with nocturnal severe weather is A, you can't see it, and then B, and this is the most alarming part of it, is the fact that, well, a lot of people are sleeping. You don't get warnings when you're asleep. at least not easily. So, have my share of concerns there. So, we're going to get into the instability here. And this is kind of what I've been waiting on getting a chance to talk about more over the last few days, considering the fact that there have been so many uptrends and downtrends with this storm system. So, when we get into this data here, especially when we get into range with the convective models, this is when you really want to start to lock in here. In fact, this is the first time I've gotten to see the OOZ run, because it just really finished uploading not long ago. And this right here is really why I'm also concerned with this area. Even though it's overnight, after sunset, there is a lot, and I mean a lot of instability available here. 1500 joules per kilogram is more than enough to get something going here. I'm especially interested in North Texas particularly. Maybe also over towards maybe extreme southern Oklahoma as well. But if I were to click this region here where we have the most CAPE available, look at that. That little loop here isn't the best thing to see when it comes to a tornado hodiograph, but it's sufficient enough to where it would be problematic as well. There's a lot of shear at the lower levels of the atmosphere. If you look at the wind barbs, you can see how they're turning in direction here. And then also the speed shear from 0 to 1 kilometer, which is close to the surface. We have a shear rating of 32 here, which is more than sufficient enough. The biggest inhibiting factor is towards the mid-levels with this hodiograph. We want those mid-levels or the surface to 3 kilometer to be much higher. It's only at 21 versus 32 at the bottom. Still will be enough to help overcome some of the limitations that we would have with this environment. Nonetheless, though, we look at other parameters here like the lift index, that's off the charts. Like as we mentioned before, plenty of instability available here. Lapse rates are also very good. So overnight tornado threat is very probable at this point. Not a guarantee, but it wouldn't surprise me if we see a couple overnight tornadoes, and there even would be a chance of a strong one or two. So let's go ahead and get this moving into Tuesday, the big day. Oh, wow. Forget that it's only going to 4, that we're at the edge of range here. And the biggest surprise that I've seen so far is the lack of instability that we have here. So normally when I look at instability at range here, I usually expect to see a look like this off of something like GFS or Euro. But it looks like there have been improvements made on those models, and as a result, unless we go further off towards the south here, there's not going to be as much unstable air available towards maybe northern central Mississippi in regards to the severe weather threat, so it could slow things down. But in any case, though, where we do have prominent instability, we also have incredible wind shear here. The surface to 1 range is at 41 as far as shear is concerned. The directional shear, however, is not quite as impressive. That's why I'm looking a little bit further towards those areas to the north at this point still. But nonetheless here, just looking all the way through this skew T here, looking at the surface all the way up to the higher levels of the atmosphere, the wind shear is off the charts. Keep in mind that surface low, or that upper level low I should say, is still all the way up here towards Missouri, which again is pretty impressive to see here. Like I said, the real question is, can we get instability towards these regions? If we get breaks in the clouds over here towards the day, get some sunshine to pop up here, we might be talking a different story here. And while even though there's not a likelihood of storms popping up in the area, you see a hodiograph like this, if you were to get something to pop off here, tornado threat would have been off the charts. Just thankfully, based off of this look here, we're not going to have a whole lot going on. Not much, Smokey. Just talking about the severe weather threat tomorrow night and into Tuesday here. I do think that there might be a sneaky little overnight tornado threat over towards Texas, Oklahoma. Tuesday, actually, interestingly enough, has downtrended. And downtrended considerably based off what I'm seeing as of right now. There are a couple of conditions that will play into whether or not that threat verifies or does not verify, or whether that downtrend was warranted or not. But definitely would expect maybe an uptrend in regards to Monday night. Storm by Denton looks nasty. Yeah, I agreed with you. I would agree with you on that. But you have to specify which time, because I do think there still could be showers and storms. Let me check reflectivity real quick. Warm during the day, but dropping low at night. Welcome to spring. Especially during the early part of what is considered as meteorological spring, we often will find cases where Mother Nature almost seems like she doesn't know what she wants to do. I want to be hot. I want to be cold. But look at this right here. Like I said, I'm really interested in this setup over here as we get into the overnight hours. The storm over towards Denton right now. Hey, yo, chill, Smokey, chill. Oh, there's good. Oh, towards Denton. Let me pull up the radar for you. Hang on. Oh, there's going to be some strong winds with it. But let's go ahead and look at rotation here just to see what you're seeing. Rotation's pretty broad right now. It could evolve, but I wouldn't expect a whole lot out of that. Not right now, at least. You'd have to see how it trends. But what we can do here is we're going to go ahead and actually put the radar on the small screen here in the bottom left corner, so that way we can keep an eye on it. Central Arkansas on Tuesday, I would expect severe weather, a little bit of a downtrend, maybe not quite as bad as what we were originally thinking, but still could have a few tornadoes. Damaging winds seem possible. Hail threat is notable. Alright, just give me 1 second here. Oh wow, how did it end up in the top corner? That's the first time that's ever happened. Ah, no problem, Madison. We'll be live covering that too on this channel as well. But yeah, this is what we're seeing over towards Central Arkansas. I know it's on the bottom left corner of the screen. But yeah, the enhanced risk has dropped out of Little Rock as of right now. Keep in mind, things can change with models pretty often. And a lot of what ends up happening Monday night off to your west may be a big determining factor as to what ends up happening on Tuesday. Let's keep this moving too while we're at it. Keep the radar loop going. Alright, so for anyone that's looking for Denton, just to the north of Fort Worth, keep an eye on this screen here to the bottom left corner. Anyone that's looking for radar data, any model data here in regards to Monday night, Tuesday, keep an eye on the main part of the screen. But here is the timing for anyone that's interested in Monday night, and this actually would include Denton as well, so you might want to watch this as well. Overnight Monday, I would say somewhere around the time you would be waking up to go to work or go to school. Some people may get up at about 5. That's when I would expect storms to start to come through. These do look pretty impressive on radar too, so definitely need to keep an eye on that. I don't expect them to be too long lasting. May last all the way into mid-morning, but the severe threat will be earlier in the morning, I would say. Virginia actually is going to come into play on Wednesday. I'm not really in range with the HRRR for that. I can try and see if I might make it with the name 3 kilometer. But usually when I look at convective models, I like to compare the two. So I was actually going to do a follow-up discussion tomorrow evening as well. And then maybe depending on how things pan out, I'd do live coverage on Tuesday morning and then maybe just hang around, do another one on Tuesday evening as well. So busy times over here. But the timing in regards to central parts of Arkansas here, and this is a big reason why it's a limiting fact, why the factors are starting to become a little bit more questionable, maybe even more limited. I'm going to try to get in close here so you can see it. I'm going to try to go with the south central map here. Alright, we're going to have to start back over, unfortunately, there. But yeah, nasty look over here in regards to Texas, in regards to the early to mid-morning. Also, I have not seen the fire at Myrtle Beach. If it happened today, I saw it yesterday. But if you're over towards Arkansas and you're wondering what's going to happen there, you do get some storms to fire off in, I would say, the early afternoon. But the problem is there's a lot of convection here. The thing is that there is a lot of convection, and these storms are pretty much forming right on top of each other. If you were to be concerned about a tornado outbreak, you would want these storms to be more discreet. You would want them to be a little bit more spread apart. They do have that little bit of that classic kidney bean shape, which is really indicative of just how much wind shear there is over this environment. But with these storms kind of forming on top of each other, they're going to be fighting for those dynamics that you would need in order for these storms to really mature into those monstrous supercells that a lot of people would be concerned about. It does look nasty, but this over-convection, or as it's called, or slang in this community, the weather community, we call it crapvection. This crapvection is going to limit a lot of the activity here. Now, further off towards the south, where the warm sector is a little bit more abundant, this is where you start seeing those prefrontal cells beginning to pop up here. Notice again that kidney bean shape that we see here. That's where that tornado threat is going to be a little bit higher. And then, interestingly enough, and I talked about this yesterday on my Discord server, I'm leery of the potential of maybe this QLCS maybe breaking down a little bit further over towards parts of central Mississippi into discrete cells, or even I would go as far as to say embedded supercells amongst this main line here. Like I said, the dynamics are best over towards southern parts of Mississippi here and over towards Louisiana. But I do think if we can get just enough juice over here towards central Missouri, you could almost include them in that too. But unfortunately, at this point, this is where I'm at the edge of the range on the NAM 3 kilometer here. What we're going to try to do is we're going to go back to the national view, and we're going to go ahead and see what Virginia has to offer here. Once we switch over to NAM 3 kilometer here. And it looks like it's just about done here. So the other reason I don't use the NAM 3 kilometer is often because it often takes a lot longer for it to load as well. So it's a little bit of an uphill struggle trying to time these streams with the latest model data. I don't want to give you data that's 6 hours old, because things could have changed entirely by that point. So make a little comparison real quick. Looks pretty identical to the HRRR in regards to timing and also storm intensity. The one thing with the NAM, and this is mainly lingo from a lot of my weather nerds here, it has a cold bias here. So as a result, more often than not, with those colder levels towards the mid to upper levels of the atmosphere, we sometimes can get some pretty crazy looks out of it. There is a chance, so like I said, concern does exist in regards to severe potential overnight in either case here. As far as Arkansas is concerned, in regards to Tuesday, pretty similar deal. A lot of convection out ahead of the main event here, so that's going to help limit things over towards that region, over towards the northwest. The cold core setup still might be in play here too. Yeah, it is hard to say ahead of time, but seeing this look here kind of increases my confidence that we've gotten a little bit of a downtrend here. But yeah, that warm sector a little further off towards the east may help these storms kind of maintain their strength here. I think I'm going to run out of hours here on the NAM here to get a good look at what happens on Wednesday. Because I only got about 7 left on here. Actually, really 3 because the other 2 haven't loaded yet. But overnight, you can see southern Alabama is still a point of interest. We even have parts of northwest Georgia coming into play, but this weakens too. So we're going to be on a downtrend here. The other thing that we may have a problem with here, or maybe a real question in regards to areas further off towards the east, is if we can get some resurgence amongst this line here. Daytime heating, also cloud cover is going to be a big factor here. Now, while I don't have the exact look at what the radar could look like, just looking at this time frame is going to tell me a little bit about what we could be dealing with over towards this region here. By early morning, it looks like we still have a good bit of cloud cover left. Probably about another 20 or 30 minutes. Welcome back, Torex. But in any case here, I'm gonna go ahead and actually go to GFS so that way we can at least get a look at what's going on. Actually, I think I'm gonna go Euro. Euro has a little bit better high resolution in regards to radar data here. So let's move this all. Oops, I went a little too far. Okay. So this is what our reflectivity is looking like as we go through the day into Wednesday here. You see a little bit of resurgence here. Not quite looking as impressive. Definitely still looks like I'm generally concerned about more so a squall line. Maybe if it were to uptrend a bit, a bow echo, but I would say more so a squall line. Isolated damaging winds possible. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the parameters that are available here. I'm going to freeze this. It's about, actually I'm going to go to 69, hour 69 here. Don't make that into a joke, folks. Because I don't know what it is about my crowd here, but y'all love to make dirty jokes. Don't get me wrong, I like them too, but daggone it. See, here's the big problem, and this is, again, what I was kind of harping at earlier, was the fact that when it comes to the global models, they don't do as good a job with instability. In this last instance, in regards for Tuesday, I see it was pretty good, but questionable at this point. North Carolina still can get severe weather, but it will be further off towards the east. The further off towards central and maybe western parts of the state, the chances are a little bit lower, but I do think that that threat would most likely be overnight, if anything. Hard to say, man. I know one thing, if they keep on defunding the National Weather Service, that's going to turn into a problem because we aren't going to have radar coverage anymore. In fact, I won't even be able to do this anymore because all the info that I'm getting, all these weather models, comes from them. They're like a world leader when it comes to this stuff. So if we start to lose more staff, that's going to become a problem. It's already a problem because actually in Anchorage, where they launched the weather balloons, they're not doing that now. So there's going to be a little bit of a plot hole, especially over towards the northwest already, in regards to some of the information that we have available to us now. So all we can do is wait and see, unfortunately. I just hope that this doesn't end up hurting people as a result. Trust me, I understand your concern. I'm with you on that 100%. And I hate talking about it too. I really do. Alright, I'm looking overnight in regards to the instability that's available towards this region. It looks like we have some. As I was just saying to Oh no. I probably went through that area at one point. Not necessarily because I was chasing the storm. It was because of work, but I got to see a lot of the damage, even though it was months later. I'm sorry that you went through that. I can only imagine what it was actually like just being there in real time during that event. We were actually doing live coverage when that happened, so I really hate that you went through that, man. Yeah, because that was a pretty unfortunate situation. Months later, I actually went through there on the way to fix a pool table, and I ended up seeing all the tree damage still. And this was in early January. No, Smokey, I'm just a regular guy. I have no access to that. I'm not using anything that's like super special here. This information that I got access to is something that anyone has public access to. Like, it's public access. Anybody can get it. But it's just learning how to decipher it to a degree. And I wouldn't say that I'm even a pro at it. I've been just doing it. I've been just learning how to do it over the years. Oh, no problem, Lego fan. We're happy to have you here, man. Don't be a stranger, alright? But in regards to what happens ahead, as far as what's ahead for your area on Wednesday, kind of hard to say right now. We'll be doing an update stream tomorrow as well, because like I said, global models aren't really good at showing instability, not as consistent as some of the convective models, and we won't be in range until tomorrow. Yeah, I have no advanced access, unfortunately. I don't know exactly what you would have to do. You would have to probably be involved in the commerce division, and well, let's not get into that because we already know this. We already know the score there, unfortunately. So it's only so much I can do, sadly. Okay, let's compare this to GFS here, see if we can find something here. What I'm really trying to do for at least the North Carolina area, is to just find some kind of signal here. I mean, I mean, at the very least, I can see something. But like I said, I'm not really gonna know just exactly what the environment's gonna be like until probably tomorrow. Because I love answering questions on here. One thing I can at least look at in regards to the environment out ahead for Wednesday is the amount of energy that we would have available, especially storm road Felicity. Yep, it always does. We get to see our hazard types by that point. Usually we get a really good idea of our instability as well. Like I said, I really think the main threat will be more so damaging winds than anything else, and maybe a chance of flooding. A couple of tornadoes could still be possible, especially seeing these parameters that I'm seeing here. It really just depends on how things kind of come together throughout the course of the day. And also kind of use the EHI here to kind of cheat a little bit. I normally don't use EHI as much as I would use the Cape, but these two parameters are relatively similar. Oops, went too far. And I mean, they're pretty similar though in this case though. So like I said, something does seem to be there. Not the most impressive readings I've seen. EHI is Energy Helicity Index. So this is almost like Cape, but it's slightly different. I can't think off the top of my head right now as to what this is exactly. I know it's on the tip of my tongue, but I'm just kind of bleh right now. And I hate that. But the way you would rate EHI in comparison to Cape is different. Helicity has a lot to do with wind, has a lot to do with... Ah, jeez. Dang it, it's like I said, it's on the tip of my tongue. I can't get it out right now. Sheesh. But whereas if you were to look at Cape, Cape stands for convective available potential energy. But in any case, though, and I don't know why I clicked on that sounding there. In any case, though, if you were to look at EHI, usually you would look for a value of about 1.0 or higher. I know what the parameter needs to be for it, but I can't get the definition out. Make that into a blooper, please. That's gotta be one. Daggone it. Well, we do have a nice little value getting close to one over here towards Virginia as well, so still need to keep an eye on the eastern half of the state for sure as well. Alright, so let's see if there's anything else we can look at. Oh, yeah, there is, actually. So, I do this sometimes, but I don't do it often here. Make sure I update this properly. But I see a few of the regulars here that are a little bit more familiar with weather. So we're actually going to go ahead and take a look at this parameter here, SIGTOR. We don't always look at this here because I often worry that it might get misconstrued. This is only an indicator of what the environment would be capable of if everything were to come together. And what I mean by everything coming together was a storm firing over this area, along with other products or other parameters coming into play here. And with that, that's how we end up getting the significant tornado parameter here. That's how we get our values out of this. However, and actually, come to think of it, I really want to go back off to the west first. Because like I said, I'm very leery of that threat tomorrow night and overnight into Tuesday. That is very generous of you to compare me to Einstein, but hang on, man. So the timing of these storms will be around 08Z here. And it intrigues me that we do have a little area over here towards south central Oklahoma that looks impressive here. We got a 3 on there. Like I said, these loops right here in the mid-range is what might be a slight... It might make things slightly weaker, but nonetheless here, it's still considerable enough to where you would have to be concerned about maybe the chance of a strong tornado. I would say more so an off chance here. Also, here's a great example of good EHI values, by the way, Smokey. We're at 2.4 over here on this hodiograph. But also, look at that, though. Notice how it kind of correlates with how much CAPE we have as well. We have 1586 for surface CAPE. You need usually about 1,000. So, it's a little bit of a correlation of the two. If one's up, usually the other one's there as well. It doesn't always work that way, but it's pretty... this threat is, I would go as far as to say, considerable. Lapse rates look good. So, and then on top of that, like I mentioned before earlier in the stream, we have a very well sheared environment towards the lower levels in particular. It's all right, man. Trust me, I'm going through my own share of stuff. I understand. It's part of life, you know. Life happens very fast. Sometimes it comes in droves. So you have to do what you can to adjust. Sometimes talking about it helps some. For others, it doesn't always. So, I mean, do what you got to do, man. I'm very much understanding. I mean, I'll go as far, but I will say this, like, I'll say don't take over the chat with it, but if you need to talk about it, I mean, I'll listen. Alright, but in any case, though, we still get a look at our main area of interest as we get into the Tuesday time frame here. Do see a little bit of a drop-off over here. Do I take an interest in radio broadcasts? Not really, but at the same time, I wouldn't mind it. I mean, it would be something that I would be considerate of if everything were to fall into place for that. But as of right now, it's kind of impractical at the moment. But there's a whole bunch of stuff that I'm considering, especially if the channel were to grow considerably over the next few years. There's a whole bunch of different things I want to do. I actually do want to storm chase too, but obviously right now it's going to be a challenge considering the fact that, well, I'm struggling with my finances at the moment. I'm not asking for money, but storm chasing is very expensive. A lot of people don't realize that. Like, a lot of people don't realize that. So, kind of hard to do that if you don't have the funds. But at some point, I'm going to try to make it happen. Find it interesting that the SCP values drop off. Gas money, food, and then most importantly, and I think this is probably one of the most overlooked things, unless you're actually involved in storm chasing, is the vehicle maintenance. The vehicle maintenance is a killer. Because, I mean, you got to think about it. These vehicles are not necessarily built to go through 70 plus mile per hour winds, baseball sized hail, and of course tornadoes. Heaven forbid you end up even driving into a tornado to begin with, but it's a lot of abuse on the frame of a vehicle. Not to mention the other parts such as transmission, also the engine itself, having to gun it in case you need to get out of an area quickly. Then of course there's also other unknowns. Ryan Skull, Brandon Kopic too, because I've seen plenty of his live streams where his windshield got absolutely demolished. I mean, sometimes they do a good job of avoiding the hail core, but sometimes those hailstones just fly out so far from the core of the storm to where it's kind of hard to avoid them. They'll literally just get kind of centrifuged out from the center all the way out towards maybe like the anvil even at times. And it'll just happen to be like baseball sized or bigger. Reminds me of Twister. Love that movie. Don't we all? Don't we all? But all that aside here, is there any other questions that you guys might have as well? Would it be okay if you drank rainwater instead of some filtered rivered water? That's a hard one to answer, I would say. That's not my area of expertise, I'll be honest. I think a core punch would be super exhilarating, but considering the after effects, I don't think I would want to do that. Windshields aren't cheap. Yeah, I don't think rainwater is clean either. I'd still think you would have to filtrate it regardless. So it's really not that much different from river water. He didn't like how Twisters came after Chasers. I mean, it happens a lot. It just sometimes the circumstances don't go the way that you want, and we have unfortunate instances. El Reno was a great example, or El Reno 2013. You know, it was just one of those situations, or I guess you would go as far as to say, and I don't mean to have any pun intended behind this, but it was the perfect storm in regards to chasers getting caught in it. I mean, you have to think it increased its speed by over 40 miles per hour within the course of a minute. It went from 20 to 60 miles an hour. It was taking a turn as it was happening. And then on top of that, the road network around that area was less than ideal. Nothing wrong with being different, but we still want you to be safe. That's all I'll say. I mean, I know about being indifferent. I'm a metalhead. Yeah. Oh, I guess I did mention that. But yeah, it also grew like a mile in size within a matter of a couple minutes. Or actually less than that. I think it was actually a minute too. But yeah, I think it was like maybe a 1.5 mile wide, and then it grew into a mega wedge. I remember how Simon Brewer was talking about that too. But yeah, like I said, literally just, again, I hate saying it in this context, but yeah, literally was just kind of the perfect storm for bad things to happen. And unfortunately, people were lost. But I mean, anyone that storm chases knows the risk. So they knew there. They know that there's always that chance. You always hope that it doesn't happen, but that's just part of the game. I feel, and it almost feels kind of cruel to say that, but it's just a harsh reality of it. Oh, Twister's the movie. Oh, I see, I see. I haven't seen the sequel. I haven't seen the sequel yet. But yeah, of course they're gonna. Of course, a lot of people don't understand it now. Then of course, the media storm chasers. The media storm chasers. Oh, those guys have kind of given storm chasing a bad name because they don't know how to act whenever severe weather's in their area. They want to get the shot so bad that, well, they end up disregarding public safety, and then they want to end up acting like police officers, and then you wonder why people don't like you. But you didn't hear that from me. You didn't hear that from me. I didn't say anything, right? Right, guys? Right, guys? I didn't say a word. Wait, what were you doing? What was that for, Torex? Was that a mistake? What'd he do? I think that was a mistake, Emmanuel. I think he just hit a. I think he accidentally hit the wrong button. Oh yeah, the original's cool. I haven't seen the second one. I was like, what was that? No, what have you done? I'm sorry, Emmanuel. Torex didn't mean to do that. It's very clear. Oh, you deleted your own? Oh, okay. I think Torex was trying to see what you deleted. But in any case, though, any other questions you guys have for the next couple of days here? Because this is really all the information that I have available to me right now. I mean, I could look at other models, but we're kind of in the middle of model updates, as you can see right here. You see these little blank areas? These are new models coming in for the most part. The other ones are kind of out of date at this juncture, so it really is kind of a moot point to use them. Yeah, that's all that really was. But yeah, um, uh, shoot, I don't know what else to really do at this point. This website here that I'm using, yes, that's pivotalweather.com. It's free to use, but they do have some benefits that only members can get access to, and you would have to pay money for that. So, me personally, I would use Tropical Tidbits. Can I play the Van Halen song? I would love to. I would love to actually play it, but I would get my stream take. I would get this taken down, or it would get demonetized. Cause funny thing is, on this channel, I actually did I did my own little mini documentary of the Mayfield tornado, and it was ironically watching Ryan Hall do that event that made me want to get on here and do this myself. Because I mean, I had been looking at weather radar and just watching events unfold and kind of going over the same things, explaining things to people outside of like school, etc. for years, like since I was not even a teenager, like even just like 8 years old. So when I saw him doing this and like finding success, I'm like, hey, why am I not doing this? Why not at least just try? So, hence here we are. But yeah, I did. But deviating from what I was really trying to say, I incorporated that song for the doc. They didn't take it down, but they did demonetize it. Not like it got like that many views. It's maybe like 150. But yeah. So obviously cannot play Van Halen on here. And then the weird thing about that song also is the fact that I think Van Halen plays that slightly out of tune as well. That's another thing about Van Halen. I think he tuned his guitar maybe a cent or two out of tune. So it sounds different. It's not a perfect note, and then on top of that, he's using what's called a tremolo bar as well. So as a result, it's kind of hard to figure out just what exactly he's doing on there, what tuning he's in. Other genres of music, I like just about any genre, truthfully. I mean, metal's obviously my favorite, but I listen to old school R&B and hip hop. I grew up on that. I listen to some country, not a whole lot. I'm not super aware of any like underground artists, and I'm very picky when it comes to country. When it comes to hip hop today, there are some rappers that I like to listen to. Kendrick Lamar is one of my favorites, of course. Eminem, grew up on him. Um, who else? Ti, he's from ATL. He's from the ATL, so of course, you know I'm gonna hear a lot of him. Big fan. But yeah, I'll listen to a little bit of classic country. But yeah, hard rock, metal, it's bread and butter here. You'll always find me listening to that first. But yeah, I'm pretty diverse. I've even played stuff outside of the metal genre as well. I even used to play in my mom's worship group. I used to play on bass. We don't do country unless it's Johnny Cash. Amen. Johnny Cash is good. Johnny Cash is very good. I wish I had an acoustic so that way I could play that stuff every once in a while. I figure if I at least played on acoustic and I could sing decent, then maybe I would try that someday. But I only have my electric guitars and a bass. You're shocked? What do you mean? What are you shocked about, sir? Oh, there was a stint on the channel here where every once in a while we would change it up and we would listen to lo-fi on here. But then of course, as we all know, the copyrights. Yeah, Johnny Cash has a way of just kind of getting to people's souls, man. My favorite song, of course, is "Hurt." I know it's pretty mainstream, but I felt that when I first heard it. And then "Ain't No Grave" is another one I really like. There is a metal band out there. They're not the best in regards to religious stuff, but the vocalist actually has like a dark blues band called Me and That Man. I love the song that they played called "Ain't Much Lovin'." Well, actually, I did make some videos a while back. Made a playlist called the Weather Nerd 101 playlist. It's like getting into the basics on how to read this stuff. So, actually, you could check those videos out. I'm not gonna hate you for Avenged Sevenfold. Yeah, I actually separated mine because if I put it all together, I could probably have like 5,000 songs in my library easily. I come from a family of musicians, and I grew up on different styles of music. My dad was actually an old school DJ, and he would do gigs, and I would go with him to help him carry the equipment from time to time. So as I grew up, I was exposed to many different styles of music, different types of people, of course, too. But it was often pretty interesting to watch people dance and stuff in particular. But yeah, I have a lot of experience with music. It runs in the family too, so there's that. Wait, really? From my playlist? Holy cow. That's great. I wondered how many people actually watch some of those. Yeah, that's the main goal of my channel is to try to be straightforward because, I mean, yes, I could use some of the advanced lingo on here. But, at the end of the day, I want to break this down in a way to where people that may not be quite as weather savvy, but are actually trying to understand what's going on, could kind of get into it and then they could build from there. So that way, in time, if they got more interested, they could check out somebody like a Convective Chronicles or read Timmer, and then they would feel, and then they would feel like they're somewhat in the loop. Yeah, I remember when you tuned into Debbie. I do remember that. You want to know something crazy, by the way? I actually have a full playlist of the entire 2024 hurricane season. Don't try and watch it because it's like over a day long. It's probably actually more like 2 days. And that's without ads. I've done one for every season. I kind of messed up the 2023 one though because I didn't include the live streams from then. But even then, just from the forecast videos that were made, that was 38 videos, and that takes several hours alone. 2022 was like the second longest one I did, but I wasn't live streaming in 22. But I did forecast videos, updates regularly. Man, 2022 was crazy for me. Like when the channel was brand new, there were times I was doing like 2, sometimes even 3 videos a day. Keeping up with that pace now, especially with the live streams, that's a little harder to do. Especially if you include the fact that I actually have a day job too. Although right now I'm in the off season, so I'm more available. But after March 10th, it's going to be a bit more of a challenge to be on time for some of these severe weather events. There's a chat right now. Wow. Nice. Jeez, I'll have to fix that once I'm done with this. But yeah, I have like a whole bunch of different playlists. I try to do timelines of every big severe weather event that I've covered. Like I have one of Rolling Fork, even though that one's partially incomplete because my stream crashed during the middle of the actual Rolling Fork tornado. I ended up starting my stream late for 331. April 26th, my computer was acting up and I had to get a whole new Ethernet cable, so I blasted my tail to the store as fast as I could, and I got that, but it made me like an hour and a half late, so I missed a lot of action by that point. But yeah, I have playlists all over the place if you look through the channel. So yeah, there's like a whole bunch of different stuff that you could find. Yeah, we've been around for a minute. Yeah, I do too. Sometimes I back at my own streams. Sometimes I usually will look at other people's, to be honest. Would you believe me if I told you that I actually kind of hate the sound of my voice? I'm not the egotistical guy at all. I am not very egotistical at all. With that being said, like sometimes I'll watch back my old streams and I'll be like, oh, so that's what I did wrong here. Then I'll listen to, yeah, yep, you get it. I think it's just a content creator thing. Like a lot of times you're your own harshest critic. That's always been a thing with me, and just about anything I've done, whether it's been work or music or this, I've always been really harsh on myself. Like for the things that I did right, it's like I often see like 10 things that I did wrong. I kind of hate that, but it can help you grow. It can help you grow. Well, I'm trying to think. Is there anything else you guys want me to do for the meantime? I mean, It's not like I have anything to do tomorrow, but I mean, if you still want me to talk, to just chat with you guys, I'm happy to. I mean, it's up to y'all. I have no issues with any of it, really. I mean, you can ask me questions outside of the weather. It's not going to bother me. Feel free. I don't mind just chatting with you guys. I don't. I often. I wouldn't mind doing that. I wouldn't mind doing that more. Your flight is booked for Wednesday. Right. I can do that. I can easily do that. Okay. Ah, jeez, Emmanuel. He out here trolling. No, there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that at all. Okay, so we're gonna look at all types of precip too, because there is a wintry side to this, by the way. There is a wintry side to this setup. But in any case, though, I got that vibe from you, but it's fine. You forget, I've been, well, maybe I didn't tell you. I've been in a couple of metal bands, so I've seen plenty of crazy stuff. There's nothing to really forgive. It doesn't bother me. Uh-oh. Don't do that. Baconator might... Oh no. I remember I remember exactly what happened the last time you summoned him, Torex. It wasn't anything good. Do not summon Baconator. Do not summon Baconator. I remember a specific individual that we will not name for reasons. And I remember how that went. Alright, I hope you're paying attention, Lego. Because the timing of the event towards Missouri, it starts early on Tuesday. By the time we get into Wednesday, it clears out. Ah, shoot. I forget that 8 triple R's not in range. Let's go to GFS then. We still got another 2 hours before this model would update. So that's why I often don't really use these as much either. The time frames between when these models update is pretty chaotic. So it's kind of a pain. Alright, so here is overnight, Tuesday and Wednesday. We could get a little bit of wraparound snow in the early morning hours. Oh dear God. I think actually Baconator might like you. Oh God. Slump Buster. Slump Busters. What the hell? What the hell? What the hell? Dear God. Anyway, depending on depending on the timing in which your flight leaves, shouldn't be too bad. If you're going all the way over towards Missouri, you're gonna have some shower and storm activity early in the day. Over towards central parts of North Carolina. I don't know exactly which part you live in. You don't have to tell me. You aren't obligated to, obviously. But storms are gonna likely pass through mid-morning into early afternoon, and then of course they're going to clear out by late afternoon for a large part of the state. Then after that, could be a chance you might get some wraparound snow depending on how far along in your flight you are, but it's not going to be anything that's long lasting. I wouldn't expect any delays from that. Could be delays over towards your departure area, but as far as your arrival is concerned, you're good. But yeah, that Slump Busters thing there, you got me there. I can't lie. That was kind of funny. It was actually very funny. Slump Busters. Try not to laugh again. But yeah, Baconator actually. I think you two have interacted before. I think he actually is cool with you. I think as long as it doesn't like bother me, I don't think he's gonna jump as quickly. But there are times where, you know, yeah, given recent times, I can't blame you. But we're not gonna get into that. But anyways, I understand because I had my apprehensions before I flew for the first time. Now it doesn't really bother me that much. The scariest point, the scariest point to me really is just the takeoff. The sensation of your ears popping is kind of unsettling. But if you have some chewing gum and headphones, it's not even gonna be a thing. I don't blame you guys in regards to not wanting to go on a plane, especially given the current times. So I get it. Me personally, I'm not too keen on going on a plane either, especially since I'm young and I'm able to, and I like the thought of going on road trips. But you know, oh, you worked in the industry. Oh, wow. No, I like I said, Lego fan, I understand. Trust me. I definitely understand. I most definitely understand. Like I said, I'm not too sure I would want to be flying right now either. I think the Philly instance was a mechanical failure. I mean, it still would be enough to unnerve a lot of people. Then there was Anchorage as well, so there's that. But I don't know. I don't really know what to say to that, truthfully, at this point. Hang, my lips are chapped. Hang. I mean, I don't have a background like that with planes, but I was actually 14 when I first flew, and it was when I was in Civil Air Patrol. It was an orientation flight. I actually got to be in the co-pilot seat, and I actually did get to take control for a bit. I mean, you always have the right. I mean, you have the right to be concerned given the situation. I mean, there's thousands of flights, so the odds aren't necessarily high that you could end up in that situation. But I think with anything, I mean, nothing's guaranteed. Anything can happen. You could step outside, honestly, and something can happen. You know, so I mean, you go into life understanding the risk, and you just try to live your life to the best of your abilities. That's what I would do. Because literally, if somebody could have it out for you, you would never even know, or they could have it out for somebody else, and you just get caught up in the middle. Stuff like that happens. I've seen it happen in person, so you know, it's part of life. You go in knowing the risk, and you do what you can. You want your drone pilot license, so at least 10 toes are down. Nice. I actually want my drone pilot license as well. I don't really think there's much I can do right now, given the fact that where I live, there's like a crap ton of trees that are like over 50 to 100 feet tall, so it would be a little bit of a pain. And then on top of that, internet signal is not great. Neither is Bluetooth out here, because I basically live in a pit. So, yeah, we basically had to upgrade our internet to the most powerful internet possible to even do live streams and for people to work in the house. So there's that too. Kind of makes for so it kind of makes for a lot of hassle, I would say. All right, Lego fan. We'll see you next. We'll hope to see you next time. We'll probably do an update video. We'll probably do an update discussion tomorrow. Probably tomorrow evening, and then depending on how things go, I might stay up late enough to potentially cover the overnight event. But any other questions you guys have? If you don't, then we can call it a stream here. I mean, it's really up to you guys. Yeah, fair, fair. But yeah, just please be careful. We wish you the best, and we hope you have a safe trip. Uh, Anyone else? Hi, Mia. Welcome back. Or were you here in chat earlier? I just keep losing track of everything. Yes, definitely. To anyone, your slight risk is still there. Yeah, I'll just pin that real quick, even though it probably won't be on for too much longer. But let me go ahead and actually pull that up for you real quick. All right. Oh wow, an extreme fire risk over towards towards the southwest here. All right, but this is what you're looking like right now, Mia. I doubt it as of right now. There's always a chance it can uptrend, but I doubt it. I think timing is going to be a factor. The storms come in earlier. I would say no. If they resurge and kind of fire a little bit later into the afternoon, there's an opportunity for that. But odds are I think you'll stay slight. Doesn't seem like there's a lot of instability available over towards your area, but we'll get a better idea of what's available to us tomorrow. Yep, that hatch risk off to the south here. But alright, anyone else got any questions about weather? Anything outside of weather? I'll give you guys about a minute. Because if not, I'll call it a stream. If there's any requests? If we're good, then we'll call it a night here. Stay tuned, or make sure you guys hit that like button, of course. Also hit that subscribe button as well, so that way we can get notified of upcoming streams. Of course, we'll be covering severe weather on Tuesday. In regards to tomorrow, that's kind of up in the air. There will be a live discussion. Depending on how overnight goes, we might even end up doing live coverage. If you're crazy enough to stay up late for that, be my guest. Let's ride. But if not, I guess that's it. Appreciate you all tuning in, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Till then, everybody have a good night.